Following the kidnap of 317 girls at Government Girls Secondary School Zamfara by armed men, President Buhari has spoken on the state of insecurity in the country through a statement by his spokesman Garuba Shehu, calling the bandits' actions inhumane and totally unacceptable, while adding that his administration will not succumb to blackmail by bandits who target innocent school students in the expectation of huge ransom payments. Nigeria's president went on to warn the bandits not to entertain any illusions that they are more powerful than the government and should not mistake the government's restraint for the humanitarian goals of protecting innocent lives as a sign of weakness or fear or irresolution. Meanwhile, government in Nigeria have released dozens of students who were kidnapped from their school last week in Kagara. The state governor says no ransom was paid for the release. Joining us now to speak on insecurity and other national matters is Honorable TOBY OKECHUKWU, Deputy Minority Leader at the House of Representatives. Honorable TOBY OKECHUKWU, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ruben, for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Well, very quickly, in the introduction, I already drew attention to the fact that the students of the Government Science Secondary School have been released, but there is still this concern about the fate, the plight of the girls from the Zamfara Government Secondary School. Now, the president has gone ahead to also say that school owners, state governments should take extra efforts to secure their schools and provide security in the environment, and that will be in line with the administration's Safe School initiative. Is it really, something that the schools have to do on their own? And what are your thoughts with regard to this special focus on schools by bandits? How can we make our schools safe?
Thank you very much, Ruben. It is very important to thank God for the mercies He has shown, particularly on the lives of students who have been subject to a lot of challenges in the recent past. As a matter of fact, it is the responsibility of government to provide security for its citizens. The primary purpose of government is security and welfare for its citizens. So whereas we thank God for showing mercy and having the students released, and we commiserate with the people who have lost their lives along the line. Well, it might be good on the side of the Mr. President to say that people, our state should ensure security for schools. But the point is that are they fit for purpose? By the provisions of our Constitution, the state is the only organ that is equipped with the power of coercion and to enforce security. If the states are to provide security, are they equipped to do so? And that calls to the question, we might have the right talks, but are we walking the talk? And this is where we need an enabling environment for the states to provide security for the people in their states. So whereas it is good to provide security, are they equipped to do so? Is the police under their control? We have, in the past few years, Nigerians have discussed and debated regarding state police. I think the president's message goes to that effect. It is to make it operational. So the states may want to do that, but they don't have the capacity. If they have the capacity, they would have provided security for their citizens from being kidnapped and from the schools from being persistently and severally, ravaged by these kidnappings. So I do not think that they are equipped. It is the right call, but it is not it is not backed by capacity.
Well, some people will argue with you and say that some of these state governments are, indulge in waste, and that if they were just to reduce perhaps the number of special assistants that they recruit, the kind of, financial misappropriation that goes on in many of the states, maybe they'll be able to save a little more and prioritize education. Because the argument you've just given now was famously made by at least one state governor affected by this same problem. And he was saying the state does not have resources. Maybe the main argument should be, these governors, should they not just prioritize education and start with security?
Well, the states providing security, you must have to overcome the partition of insecurity, and then you transit to education. It is the responsibility of the state to provide both. But the important thing is that even if you want to provide security, they are enabled, there is no statutory flavor to that effect, only through the amendment of the Constitution. And I think the states should, in this respect, fight for it. Governor Rufai has moved for it. The states in the Southwest have done so. The states in the Southeast. So I do not think there is anything that is against state police anymore, because it is evident that what we have is not serving us. It might be good to argue that the states are wasting resources, but they have not been enabled by the structure of the security we have to hold them accountable and very responsible in providing that. It is a very, well, it might be fashionable to accuse the states of wasting resources. That is a normal argument to hold, particularly in the presence of the general public. But the important thing is that, look, if you want somebody to perform, give him the tools to do so.
Okay.
So I do not think that the argument of believing they are wasteful and all that answers the question of providing security. Even if they throw money on security now, they cannot be solved until they hold the command and structure for it.
Well, as someone in the leadership of the National Assembly, what role do you think that the National Assembly should be playing at this point as its own contribution to helping to address the security challenge in the country?
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost is the issue of amendment of the Constitution and to create an enabling legislative framework for it. I believe we need to amend the Constitution to allow the police, the states to provide police, to control the police and have state police. As a matter of fact, if you look at the various vigilantes, whether it is a Amotoku, whether it is a forest guard like you have in the Southeast, or Amotoku in the Southwest, or JTF as you have in the North, you will find out that each of the states are already operating a little security outfit. But the issue is that in perception, in reality, they are not very functional. So what we can do is to get focused, because the 2014 conference recommends that. The APC solo effort regarding true federalism supports that. So what we need to do as representatives of the people is to reflect the views of our people in the Constitution amendment that is coming up. So I think that is the focus. And as it presently constituted, we need to interrogate the security efforts through our various committees regarding what processes, strategies, and the outcomes of their operations.
Well, recently you requested the House, you presented a motion you led a motion requesting the House to ask the presidency to go back to the report of the 2014 National Conference in Nigeria. You also asked that the House, in your motion, should compel the presidency to make available to the House of Representatives the report of the Nasir El-Rufai Committee on restructuring. Now, but that's your request. What informed that motion? And then why do you think that the House decided to stand it down? Because you were not even allowed to complete your presentation before the Speaker said, no, that should wait. But let's take a short break. When we return, the program will continue. Just stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still the Deputy Minority Leader at the House of Representatives, Nigeria, Honorable TOBY Okechukwu. Well, I'd asked you before we went on break, what happened with the motion you moved with regard to the 2014 National Conference report and the El-Rufai Committee on Restructuring? What motivated you, and why was it shut down just like that, summarily?
Thank you, Ruben. I do not think it was shut down. I completed my motion. I moved it. But the reason for moving the motion first, before I go to how we ended up with it, the reason for the motion was that by Section 88-89 of the Constitution, the National Assembly can procure evidence, procure any material that it requires for its work. And it is in reasoning along that line that motion was moved. So we needed the discussions, the deliberations of the confab, because it is a paper that belongs to the presidency now. We needed to make it an official document of the parliament so that the contents can officially be discussed. And I do not think that it will be useful having invested resources in such a conference, having Nigerians invested more hours on such a conference, and you don't deal with it legislatively. It goes to no issue. Second is that even though the APC so moto went about addressing or having its own committee on true federalism, all the body of literature encompassed in the two documents will further enrich the legislative deliberations. So, and they addressed issues like devolution of powers, security in Nigeria, finances, resource control, and the rest of it. And that was why we said, let us have it as part of the materials. We are on the verge of amending the Constitution or sitting for it. It will enrich our debate because it's part of the armada of literature such as on the subject. Secondly, is that it is very, very important that we begin to focus attention on what has happened in the past. Your in past will inform your present. You cannot reinvent the wheel. But it was a step down, not because there was no merit in the motion, but the chairman of the Constitutional Review Committee in the House of Representatives, the Deputy Speaker, said that they can obtain that the documents can be obtained by operation of the Secretariat, which means memoranda will be sent to various organs of government and to individuals to bring whatever they have. I said, well, if you can shoot a gun without gunpowder, what do you need the gunpowder for? So, and that was the reason why I stepped down, not because of lack of merit. But if the chairman of the Committee on Constitutional Review has volunteered to do that, the motion was no longer necessary to be voted upon. Okay,
let me take you back again to the subject of security. There's been a lot of talk about, in some quarters, about blanket amnesty for bandits and bandits in particular. Do you think that is a good idea, or also negotiation or dialogue as an option, or the payment of ransom to secure the release of persons who have been kidnapped?
Well, thank you, Ruben. Any of those activities, whether it is payment of ransom, granting amnesty, or dialogue, what it does is to put a question mark on the integrity of the state, to be the only organ that is legitimately authorized to exercise violence in terms of carry weapons of coercion. It means that the state is operating from a compromised state. So it is not expected within the context of a country or a nation state to begin to operate with such a method. But if you want to negotiate, who do you want to negotiate with? Is there a central command with regard to bandits? Is there a central command with regard to criminals? Is there an organized structure that if you negotiate with these elements, that the other elements will not? So it could be an invitation to have various groups spring up and begin to undertake in such an enterprise. So it is not even it is an organized criminal network, but they are also operating in pockets. If you check very well, there is some level of negotiation and grant of amnesty in Zamfara. But who are the people who are perpetuating the 317 kidnapping? So there is a lot of question mark regard to such approach. So what is important is that the state should improve its standing.
Well, we have had the view expressed by certain persons that bandits are not criminals and that they are just aggrieved members of society. You are a lawyer, you are also a lawmaker. Is it true that it's possible for us to say that bandits are not criminals?
Well, the definition of who is a criminal or not is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of law. And our criminal code or the penal code clearly defines what a criminal is. You are a criminal when you do things that offend the state. So if banditry is not crime, I do not know what is. And why are we discussing with them if it is a vocation you can undertake? So there isn't any way, or you can just give it a new baptism or give banditry a new baptism and say it's not criminal. It has nothing to do with crime. It is crime, and in capital letters. So I do not think we should just play with it. We should make a proper analysis. We should do a proper understanding of what is ailing us. There isn't any point wishing it away, because this perpetuation of such savagery, as we have witnessed by our people from Kagara to Katsina to Zamfara to Bauchi State to Ondo State to Southwest to the Southeast and other places, please, there isn't any qualification that takes it away from criminality. We must know what we are dealing with. So I do not agree that it is not criminal or that is not a crime. No. There are criminals and they should be so described. I also understand but that there are people or crimes that happen because of the imperfections of the state. There are people who are also doing certain things because there are no alternatives, or that because the state has not provided sufficiently for them, or the enabling environment is not there.
Well, on that note,
then those are issues to be addressed by government. But to say that a crime is not a crime, then you're playing with fire.
Well, on that note, let's take another short break. And when we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. Deputy Minority Leader at the House of Representatives, Nigeria, TOBY OKECHUKWU, is still our guest. And before we went on break, you were, talking about the matter of law. And I was going to add to that to ask you another question about this perception among many Nigerians that there is an unequal application of the law in Nigeria, particularly when it comes to security matters. There are persons who in the last 2 weeks have expressed the view that when there is a security challenge in the southern part of the country, there is an attempt to deploy military might, as we saw recently in Olu, or to demonize persons in the south who agitate. But that in the north, when it comes to the north, there is an attempt to defend even bandits and even apply a policy of appeasement. Do you share that view?
Well, thank you, Ruben. I don't have to share the view or listen, but you see, the public analysis presupposes that people deal with what they see. For me, as a matter of governance, government should ensure equality before the law. If for any reason that is perceived by the public that the government is being nepotic or its organs are being nepotic, it does not help anybody. Well, the level of force that was applied in all was very evident. It was there, the social media captured it. It was captured by the mainstream media. But you begin to wonder what happens when there is this serial and perpetual and several kidnappings of our fellow citizens in the north. I do not see how it is possible that a nation-state security will be beholden to bandits, that they will operate to kidnap about 300 people and there is no single arrest. And people will be imagining that it is God's will. I do not think. God has given us life. God has given us opportunities. Anybody who is going out is offending God and offending our laws. And the law should deal with it as prescribed by our Constitution and our laws. So I think that the body language of government creates that impression. And every step must be taken to make sure it is corrected. I do not see how we can be appeasing people who are subjecting our citizens to terrible discomfort and killing them. In Niger State, it has become a theater. Zamfara is the same. We should take the same elements, the same force we apply for people who are criminals and get to meet them. So from what we are seeing, it will appear that there is a carrot and stick approach that are applied, when it comes to issues that happen, in certain jurisdictions than others. But I think that for the state to move, for the state to capture its capacity, for the state to be to be seen, to be even with its citizens, the government, whether it is in the security forces, whether it's in governance, has to be very equal in dishing out measures?
Well, let me discuss another issue of interest this week. 1 year since the index case of COVID-19 in Nigeria was reported. And, we have had conversations with some of the key officials. But I recall that at a point, sometime last year, you said COVID-19 was imposed on Nigeria. And then later, I think you wrote a think piece in which you were saying that Nigeria should look inwards. We should be more creative in terms of how we approach the pandemic. Now, 1 year later, we're now told that by Tuesday, we're likely to get the first batch of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine doses, about 4 million doses. But when you look back, do you think that the authorities have managed the pandemic very well and that, there is hope at the end of the tunnel, or light at the end of the tunnel, as they say?
Well, thank you very much. I think I did a piece at the back page of the Sun, and I also moved a motion in Parliament. And the bottom line was that, look, there has to be a local content to every approach we make in this country. It is not good for us to be beholden to only international efforts. We don't have to wait for Western countries to manufacture drugs, to discover ways of dealing with problems before we apply our own measures. And that we have research institutes. I moved the motion that we should check what the research institutes are doing, what the medical research institutes, the content of their research, and the resources available for that purpose. That was the major content of that motion. And whatever happens to COVID-19 and the vaccination associated with it, that issue of having local content to whatever strategy or whatever development plans we have must always come into play. What we have done so far on COVID-19, we have done fairly well in terms of the level of spread, in terms of controlling the level of spread. It is difficult to actually quarantine people and quarantine citizens. If you check the consequences or impact on the economy, it's huge. But it is important that there should be a homegrown approach to the things we do. That we are having to import 4 million doses of this is just about, you would say about 2% of Nigerians that will have that vaccination. So what do you do with the rest, the 198%? So there has to be an approach that makes it possible that where India can manufacture vaccines, we can also do so. Even when the franchise or the patency is coming from overseas, we should have the capacity to do so. So what has been missing is the absence of local content. What are we contributing to the fight against the pandemic? Or are we just merely waiting for the solution to be found overseas before we deal with it? So the bottom line is that we need to make use of our research institutions. We need to organize ourselves in such a fashion that whatever comes up tomorrow, that we have to have a homegrown approach to it while partnering with people from overseas.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the homegrown approach, does this include herbal solutions? Because there is a story this week about the Oni of Ife, the monarch in Ife, collaborating with a herbal medicine company called Yemkem to unveil a set of drugs that are homegrown for the purpose of combating COVID-19. Is that the kind of research effort that you have in mind?
Well, whichever way it comes, whether it is the Onis approach or the traditional medicine approach, what is important is that we have an organ in this country, which is NAFDAC, that scrutinizes and